Welcome to the Finance Marketing Podcast, a show that empowers finance professionals to market their businesses in ways that feel good and actually achieve results. I'm your host, Hillary. I've been working with folks in financial services to develop marketing strategies that work and create results-oriented marketing content since 2020. And I've learned a lot about what works in finance marketing, what doesn't work, and where financial services pros get stuck. Join us each Friday as we explore real, effective ways to market your finance business and connect with folks who truly embody your ideal clients. This week, I'm sitting down with Domenick D'Andrea, co-founder and financial advisor at D'Andrea Wealth Management, with over 30 years of experience serving pre-retirees, retirees, and small business owners. Domenick specializes in investment advisory and financial planning tailored to each client's needs, and his firm reflects a fiduciary approach focused on client service and innovative strategies, including the integration of new technologies. Domenick holds the AIF, CRC, and CPFA designations and maintains his expertise through ongoing education. He's active in community service, a frequent industry speaker, and enjoys time with his family, travel, and photography. Now, I met Domenick at an advisor tech conference where I had the pleasure of watching him speak on a panel on the main stage. And he was such a great speaker, I had to invite him onto the podcast. So in this conversation, Domenick and I get into why so many advisors default to posting purely educational content online and why that instinct, while well-intentioned, can actually work against them. And you've probably heard me say this many times before. So we talk about this concept of the sea of sameness, and Domenick shares some genuinely great, really specific examples from his own social media of the kind of personal content that has resulted in real client relationships, including a story involving his daughter that ended up being his most successful post ever. So he's really living proof of what I tell advisors all the time, which is that your personal posts are going to work so much harder than you think they are than your educational posts. We also dig into how vulnerable is too vulnerable for posting online and whether this approach changes if you're trying to attract higher net worth clients. And also what to do if you're someone who wants to keep more of your personal life private. We also dig into how vulnerable is too vulnerable in your content online, especially whether this approach should change if you're trying to attract more sophisticated, higher net worth clients, as well as what to do if you're someone who wants to have success posting online, but also wants to keep more of your personal life private. So if you've ever felt stuck posting the same educational content as every other advisor out there creating content on LinkedIn or Instagram or X and wondered if there's a better way to actually stand out and get in front of prospects, this episode will give you some really great examples and a lot to think about when it comes to your own personal content that you can post. So without further ado, let's dive in. Domenick, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I want to start with a question because a lot of advisors, and almost every advisor who now is even an expert at posting on social media, say they start out thinking that they have to post educational content, educational finance content. That's what's going to prove their credibility and make people want to work with them. Curious to hear your take on that.
Well, first and foremost, yes, you do have to post some educational content. But if 100% of your posts are only educational content, you're in what's called a sea of sameness, what everybody else is doing. So when somebody is doing research and searching for a potential advisor they want to meet with, if everything you're posting is the same as the other people they're looking at, they have no reason to pick you over someone else.
Right.
So I definitely don't think it should be 100%, but it needs to be a percentage. They want to know about you. So I always make sure that I post a mix of educational and personal stories, personal things going on in my life, because that's what starts conversations. You'd be surprised how many appointments I go on. And like my son played soccer and baseball throughout most of his life. And now so I posted about him early on, but now it's my daughter's a competitive dancer. I have numerous conversations with parents of young girls about 15, 20 minutes into when I'm in their house or they're in my office. And most of those people become clients, or if not all those people become clients, because they already felt like they knew me and we had a connection beyond should they do a Roth conversion or roll over their IRA or buy life insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I had a conversation with an advisor. This was last year. So I want to say probably, I don't know, 8 months or so ago now. And I was advising him, you need to post more than just the educational content. Nobody's engaging with it. You're probably not getting very good impressions on it. Nobody knows who you are. You need to post more of the personal stuff. And he said, I just really don't think anybody's going to become a client of mine if I post a picture of myself grilling in my backyard with my family in the background. And I was like, but they will actually. So I'm curious to know what you would say to him.
I would say 100% he's misinformed. You need to have that. They want to know who your family is. They want to know what's going in your life. Some of my best posts is my dog.
Mm.
He's our chief rollover specialist. He's on our website. He's in our brochures that we give out. He's in our presentations. And every holiday, I have a picture of him with a holiday bandana that the groomer set up for me and a background from that holiday. And then I'll create a post that talks about that holiday, but from a dog's perspective, and get some funny stories and whatnot. And those get a lot of traction, and
Mm.
and it differentiates me. People want to know about Cooper. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know I took my daughter in the last question, but people want to know about him. They ask about him. And even we just did a presentation in the city and we talked about us, and Cooper came up in a picture and everybody laughed. It's just something that, again, you want to do something that differentiates you from everyone else out there.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be a dog. You could have a cat. It could be, whatever your pet is, whatever your children do, but just showing them an insight into you definitely only enhances the experience and makes them want to talk to you over someone else. And I've heard
Mm-hmm.
that people that have done, these kind of searches, that's why they picked meeting with me over other people.
And can you tell me a little bit about, I hesitate to use this word, but it's what is coming to mind. Can you tell me about the caliber of clients that you work with? Because I think that some advisors might say, well, I'm trying to attract people with millions of dollars in investable assets, their portfolios, and they think if I post too personal content, that's going to turn those types of people off. So tell me about the types of clients that you attract and what your thoughts are there.
Again, definitely a misnomer. You're going to attract the higher net worth people. You're going to attract all different net worths. We definitely do work with upper middle class to high net worth clientele who we can help the best
Mm-hmm.
through our planning strategies, and it definitely attracts them because, again, they want to know who they're working, who they're inviting into their house, or who they're going to go meet with, and why are they different. We
Mm-hmm.
get that question all the time. Why are you different? Well, we eliminate that a lot if somebody did their research and looked us up, because then they've seen why we're different. They've learned about us and they've got to know us. And again, it knocks down some of their walls
Mm-hmm.
because we're all financial advisors. We all have reasonably similar products, similar pools of investments, similar things we can work with. So if I can't show them what makes me different than the other person, they might not choose me.
Mm-hmm. It almost seems to me as if when they have that higher net worth and they're trusting someone with their life savings, that it almost becomes more important to show that personal and vulnerable side of yourself because they really need to know that you're a person with integrity. And when you show pictures of your family and your dog, that just communicates that you're a person of integrity.
I couldn't agree more with that question. It's a great question, Hillary. They want to know who we are. Again, it,
Mm-hmm.
I posted on LinkedIn for years and got no results. About 4 years ago, I said, after going to numerous conferences and attending numerous marketing sessions and whatnot, I realized that that's why I wasn't getting anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And once I changed my mindset and did personal stuff, did videos, did interviews like this, now people get to know me. They've gotten to meet me. If somebody's going to watch this video, even though this is about marketing and it's going to help other advisors, somebody's still getting to see my personality. And that's going to help them say, okay, you know what? I see how Domenick presents himself, how Domenick answers questions. I feel comfortable with that. If I'm going to ask him a question, I can see that he takes his time and explains it. It's not just a robotic answer.
Right, right. Is there a specific personal post that comes to mind of yours that maybe was your most successful one? Either it led to multiple people reaching out or it got the most engagement. Like what would you say has been your most successful personal post?
That's a great question. And I actually have the answer very easy. A few years ago, I had a wedding and 3 conferences in 5 weeks. So I
Mm.
was not home that much. It was all traveling. I literally came home, did some laundry, packed the clothes, and got on a plane and went to another conference. And, my daughter, was 10 at the time. She, hadn't seen daddy that much in a month. And I took her to the nail salon and we both got, manicures and pedicures. And I have a picture of the two of us sitting in the pedicure chairs. And that got the most impressions of any post I've ever done because, again, it showed, I'm there for my daughter. I'm there with my family. That's important. And I posted, I said, look, I've been traveling a lot. I wanted to do something special with my daughter who missed her daddy.
Mm. That is so special. And oh, I just love that for so many reasons. And again, I feel like that communicates so much integrity and trust. You're a family man doing something special with your daughter that potentially a lot of other men might not feel comfortable doing as well, getting in a pedicure chair too.
Done it a few times. It's not, it's a good thing, actually. It's actually enjoyable and relaxing.
I know. I recommend to my husband all the time, and he just doesn't like having his feet touched, but I think it's amazing. So, is there a line for you? I mean, is there anything that you feel like maybe this is too personal to post? Is there anything anywhere that you won't go that you feel like would be not in service of the trust that you're trying to build?
Great question. Absolutely. You will never, ever see me post politics.
Mm,
I think too many people post political opinions on social media, and it just opens up too many cans of worms. You could offend this person. You're going to get an argument with that person, which means you might lose a person that liked you, but because you
right.
got in an argument with somebody, they're like, oh, wait a minute, I can't work with this person. They can't talk opinions. So you will never see a political post, even on my personal social media.
Mm,
I don't believe it's a necessary scenario to post. And on top, and then if you're out imbibing, you could post having a drink, but you shouldn't, post getting blitzed.
yes.
You want to be professional in your personal posts.
Mm, that's really really smart. And I love that you brought up the distinction of even on your personal profiles, you won't post about politics or anything like that. And I think it's important for people to remember that people are seeing your business profiles, they're seeing your personal profiles just as much. It's all business when it's on the internet. It's all up for grabs, right? In terms of seeing you as a professional. Does that also extend to the comments that you leave on other people's posts and how you respond? Or do you allow yourself a little bit more freedom there?
Great question. Again, you want to make your comments professional and polite.
Hmm.
Respect the person's opinion of whatever they posted about. The old saying, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything.
Hmm.
It's with comments because, again, people will look when they're looking you up. You don't know if they're going to see that post where you said something not so nice about someone else.
Right.
And that could be the difference. They could say this guy's great or this girl's great and everything they're doing I love, but I can't work with them because I don't like how they responded to that
Hmm.
person. I don't think it was professional or nice. So yes, you have to be considerate on how you're having a conversation with people. And when you're having that conversation, maybe that person might say, wow, I want to work with this person because they were
Hmm.
respectful to my opinions. So you don't know
Hmm.
what's going to come of it. So definitely want to be conscientious on how you talk to people, just like you'd want them to respond to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now, are you mostly posting on LinkedIn, Dominic, or do you also post on other social media platforms?
I LinkedIn is my primary. I do have a Facebook business page. I do have an X page. I'm working on setting up an Instagram page, trying to get out there with as many audience as possible.
Mhm.
LinkedIn has drawn the most attention to us and the most appointments, but I am, always trying to build and grow because you never know where that one person is going to come from or see a
Right.
post. So I do stuff, but LinkedIn is primary where I'm doing it.
When you think about the differences between X and LinkedIn, and we'll say Facebook right now, do you think that would you be more show more of the personal life and the behind the scenes on one versus the other, or do you think that they're all places to show more of that personal and behind the scenes?
If you're posting on anything, you want to have some personal content in every social media posting on whatever site you're using, because again, if it's all business on any of them, you're going back to this that sea of sameness I talked about a few minutes ago, where no one is going to be able to say, why is Domenick different than this person?
Mm-hmm.
So it always should be some form of personal content mixed in with who with your business side, because again, they still want to know you're a financial advisor. They still want to know you understand the markets and what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to still show the personal side to make them want to talk to you over the next person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, one word that I think gets thrown around a lot in the content world is be vulnerable online. Be vulnerable because that builds trust. You're asking your clients to be vulnerable with you. Is that a word that you would use to describe the personal posts that you put out there? Why or why not?
Great question. Going back to my daughter and the manicure and the pedicure, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
your husband wasn't for that. That's a vulnerable post. There's going to be some, people are going to say, "Oh my God, he's getting a manicure and a pedicure." I don't care because it's, I enjoy it for myself and my own reason, and spending time with my children and what makes them happy is always going to make me happy.
Mm,
So showing that side of you is going to draw more people than it's going to deter.
mm,
So showing in a professional way, you know, showing content like that, 100% is going to bring somebody over the fence that may or may not have met you, or might not have wanted to speak to you because everything else was generic
mm-hmm.
educational content. And again, people tell me that. People say, "Oh, I love that picture. I love that story you had." You know, I go to conferences, and one thing I do every morning before a conference is walking out of my room. I do meeting minutes with Domenick, and I have a gimbal, and I'm walking from my room to the elevator, and I got it's to the point where I get people saying, "Oh my God, you haven't traveled in a while," because they're waiting to see the video, and what they love most about it is I don't go do post production and editing. I say what I'm learning about because I want my clients and prospective clients to know that I'm not traveling 6 to 8 times a year just for pure vacation. I
Mm-hmm.
want to go get better and learn more to bring back to help them and help my team grow. So, but what they love most is they can tell it was raw. They can tell I
Mm-hmm.
just filmed it and posted it, and they got to see me in real life, not all done up and perform like I do it. If the conference starts at 8 o'clock, by 8:30, 9 o'clock, it's posted.
Mm-hmm. I think that's important because I think it gives people so much permission to just show up and post and just show up and create because that actually works in your favor rather than feeling like you have to overly produce something or get it just right and clip out, any word stumbles that you might have had or anything like that. People actually want to see that. I think now more than ever because it proves that I didn't just go into some AI tool and have them create this video of me
Mm-hmm.
talking about something. Like this is real, this is me, this is my real unfiltered thoughts. Talking a little bit more about vulnerable, would you ever or have you ever shared financial mistakes that you have made in your life, or does that veer on the edge of too vulnerable? People don't want to hear that.
Actually, it's funny you asked me. I met you at the Nitrogen conference, and I'm waiting for the episode to come out. I did a podcast with Johnny, and we talked about financial planning and things I learned from my parents and from how I taught my kids. I believe stories are very important in what lessons we learned in life. Like, people always say, if you could go back and change one thing in your
Mm-hmm.
past, what would it be? I don't want to change anything in my past, because the mistakes that I may have made me the person I am today. That if I didn't make that one mistake or whatever it might be, who knows where I'd be today? I could, veer off in a whole different direction. So again, talking about it, nobody's perfect financially. I always tell clients when I meet them, oh my God, I didn't save for retirement enough. I didn't do this enough. And what I'll say to them, like, look, I can't fix your past. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to berate you for things that you did. My job is to make your future better.
Mm, I love that. So, what would you say to an advisor who maybe they feel very protective over their personal life? They don't want to share, their kids or their what they like to do on the weekends. They don't want to share that online. Would you say that they should just find another way to market themselves rather than use social media? Or what's something that they could do?
Great question. There are definitely people out there that don't like putting pictures of their kids online. I get that 1,000%. Find something that lets people get a little insight into that you're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do everything I'm doing today 4 years ago. I got more comfortable, did more things. Like I said, the meeting minutes I talked about. I went to a few conferences that wasn't something I did. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a good idea. Going one other thing when you talk about professionalism and not editing it, the one thing I do suggest is if you're going to do something like that, like I said, I have a gimbal which stabilizes the phone. What you don't
Mm,
want to do is have a shaky video. You want
right.
to have it where it looks like it's, you're standing somewhere as you're walking. So
Mm-hmm.
having some proper stuff is important because you want people to be engaged. You want them to look at it. And if it's shaking like crazy, they might say, I don't want to watch this.
100%. Absolutely. That actually reminds me of if you just have one thing from your personal life that you'd be willing to share, there's an advisor marketer who maybe you know him. He's really popular, James Pollard, who's been on the podcast before, and he'll often sprinkle in weightlifting content to his marketing content as well. And he always talks about how if he talks about his grip training or his personal records that he set or whatever it is, he gets more clients from those posts than he does from his really valuable marketing posts that truly are very valuable. I learn from them every time he posts. And that's all he posts about. And when he came on the podcast, he shared with me that he had kids and he was married, and I had absolutely no idea about that. So I really love what you said about just find that one thing that people can relate to. It doesn't have to be your entire life being shown on social media if you don't want it to be, but one thing that's personal that people can relate to. If you only had to choose one thing, what would your thing be if you wanted to have something that people could relate to?
If I had to cut everything down to one thing, it would be my dog Cooper, because that
Mhm.
resident, because again, it's every holiday. People are waiting for the holiday post. Like,
Yeah.
Mother's Day is coming around the corner. There'll be a Mother's Day post on Mother's Day. So it would definitely be that. If I had to cut everything else out and I could only choose one thing, it would be Cooper, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have children, but their pet is their child. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people resonate with pets more than children. It's amazing, as I've seen over the years. So it would be that.
Okay. Final question, Dominic. Is there anything that I haven't asked you yet about showing more of your personal self online that you think would be really valuable for advisors to hear to kind of round this out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say when you're doing personal pictures and personal things, I'm not, right now, I'm wearing a sport jacket and a button down shirt for this interview. Make sure you're wearing appropriate clothing. Don't wear some offensive logoed shirt, something that somebody can misconstrue.
Mm-hmm.
Pick appropriate clothes for the scenario you're in. Like, my daughter's gonna be dancing this weekend. I'll probably be wearing golf shirts. If
Mm-hmm.
I take a picture of my daughter, I'll be in a nice golf shirt. So still looking the part, but not looking this part. Because if I was wearing this at a dance competition, somebody might say, why is he wearing a sport jacket and a button down? So you still want to look appropriate because we are professional still in your post. Like, I'm not going to post a picture of me in a bathing suit at the beach.
I love that. We're not going to be in a wife beater or a tank top or something. The golf shirt or the sport jacket.
Yes.
That's really good tip, Domenick. Thank you so much. So if anybody wants to go check out your posts and your presence online, where are the best places for them to do that?
I would go to my website first because then you can get all the links for everything there. It's just easier. It's Dandarah, Dandarah, wealthmanagement.com. And then you can see all of my social media links there, and you can connect with me easily, on X, Facebook, or LinkedIn.
I love it. Well, I'll post all of them in the show notes in case people want to go check them out, but definitely go to Domenick's website. Domenick, thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Finance Marketing Podcast. If you're eager to market your business in a way that feels good and actually gets results, sign up for the Finance Marketing Podcast newsletter in the show notes so you never miss another episode. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening app and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you back here next Friday.